How's it going, guys? So, March and April manga haul. I figured it was time to get to it, and it is quite a pretty big stack, so I'll try to get through it as quick as possible. But let me start with the big ones I have here. That would be Volume 2 and Volume 3 of Battle Angel Alita. Very nice hardcovers, some very nice paper quality. And I've read through Volume 2 already. It's pretty good cyberpunk, you know, if you like your sci-fi, if you're a fan of Akira, I guess. Although they're quite different. Nonetheless, I'm really enjoying Yukito Kishiro's Battle Angel Alita, or Gunum as it was called originally. I don't know. And then I have Erased, Volume 4. I don't know if you could tell, but it says final. So it is a final volume of Kei Sanbei's Erased. And what can I say? This was a, you know, it's been a pretty cool series. I read up to the first chapter in this last volume. I'm not sure how it's gonna end, but it's been a fun read. If you like mysteries, if you like suspense, if you enjoy reading a good mystery manga, I'd say give Erased a shot. It is pretty pricey. Most of the volumes are up in the $30, and the paper quality is kind of bad, I have to say. It's not the best, but they are hardcovers, and I'm guessing that's the only way Yen Press could justify them releasing the series. Another Yen Press book, I have the second volume of ACCA 13 from Natsume Ono. And this volume continues the story about this weird country and their whole department of the ACCA, which is kind of a regulatory sort of organization. There's all of the district chiefs or something like that they're called. I might give that one a break though, because it is kind of a slow read. It's more of a character-driven story, but nonetheless, I'm still a big fan of Natsume Ono. And next, I have Volume 3 of To Your Eternity by Yoshitoki Oima. And this series has been pretty fun. I'm really enjoying this whole fantasy world building. And I have to say, if you're someone like me that doesn't enjoy long series, this third volume kind of wrapped up the whole main character and sort of his journey to growing into a different person, I guess you could say. So it provides a good stopping point at this third volume, but I know the series goes on. Up next, I have Moteki. This is volume 1 by Mitsuro Hubo. It is a vertical comics release. I've read like the first 3 chapters, and it's fun. It's slice of life. It's pretty much a comedy. And what I thought was interesting is that nowhere in the description in the back or throughout the series do they ever, or at least from the first 3 chapters I read, they never explain what Moteki means. But it's basically a guy's moment when you get a rush of girls that, you know, want to date you or whatever. I don't know. But it is a fun series. I think there's 2 volumes long because it's a 4-volume series, and that is a 2-in-1. The final volume of Genshiken, volume 12, second season. Bittersweet to see the end of this. I think it wasn't the last chapter, but the second, or maybe the second or third chapter in this volume really took me back to the original Genshiken. You know, where you have all the guys talking about stuff and basically themselves. And that was what I really enjoyed about Genshiken. This series, I can't say I was the biggest fan of. Sort of like what Tanaka said. They're not really in the Genshiken anymore. It's a different Genshiken. So I guess it was kind of fitting, you know, to end that way. It didn't feel the same as the original. But anyways, speaking of something that wasn't too amazing, um, well, not this one. This is Devilman versus Hades, the first volume by Go Nagai and Team Moon on art. I did pick up Devilman G, the first volume, and that one I have to say wasn't as I expected it to be. It was kind of slapstick. I know Go Nagai tends to be kind of slapstick with the stories, but this one, well, you can see just by reading this caption here, the epic Devilman and Mazinger Z crossover. I was hooked. Nonetheless, there was no Mazinger C in this volume, but the story was pretty cool. I will say the art is very dark, and I don't mean that as in content. I mean as in the actual art. It is hard to distinguish, especially with the paper quality that is used here. I mean, can you see Mazinger there? Barely. I mean, other than that, I have to say I really enjoyed this volume of Devilman versus Hades, and that's basically what it is. It's just a showdown, and Devilman trying to get to Hades, and he's sending all these hordes at him and stuff like that. But 2 volumes of that, so that's I guess that's a pretty good deal. And here is Zombies Assemble Volume 2. And I remember putting Volume 1 with the graphic novels, but I figured it's pretty much a manga. Komiyama takes the Avengers of the movies, throws in some zombies, and writes his own little story. It's pretty fun. 2 volumes. If you like Avengers, if you like zombies, if you like manga, it's a pretty interesting crossover there. So there you have it. That was basically all the English manga I picked up, but I got a couple volumes of Spanish manga here. So I was watching this Spanish YouTuber reviewing Green Blood, and of course he mentions that Green Blood is within the Western genre, and how there isn't that many mangas about Westerns. But he did mention Skyhawk, and I was like, what is that? And apparently it is a Jiro Taniguchi title. This was released by Ponan Mont, but it has not been released in English. And flipping through the beginning, I saw the introduction, and I thought this was maybe some words from an editor or from Taniguchi. But then, of course, I looked down and I realized they're by John Girard, Mr. Mobius himself. And of course, he mentions that thanks to comics, we don't have to miss the Western anymore. And Jiro Taniguchi began with this one. This was basically one of his first Westerns. He did have some difficulty getting it printed, but after like 10 years he found an editor that helped him out. And it's basically about these 2 samurai that end up in the West. It is set during the war with Custard and the Sioux Indians. So it retells that whole in sort of a historical fiction way. And to continue with Jiro Taniguchi, I was kind of surprised to come across this title. I had seen it for some time now, but I didn't want to pull the trigger that quick, because these volumes did end up being a bit pricey. Being an earlier work by Taniguchi, being that it is a sci-fi, of course I had to go ahead and get them. And that is volume 1 and 2 of Crónicas de la Era Glacial, which is basically translated in English as Ice Age Chronicles of the Earth. I have not finished reading it. First volume was a lot of fun. We basically start in this frozen world where you have this mining base, and volume 1 deals with this group of people in the base trying to survive, trying to get out of the base that is basically collapsing on itself. It's just a crazy journey, you know. There's this mix of Prometheus, the Incal, a bit of Akira, I guess. I can't even explain how massive this world building is. It's just a great journey. Second volume completely takes a turn. The ice is melting. Something is happening to the planet, and just look at the cover under here. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not sure where the story is even headed, but like most people say, it's more about the journey getting there than the actual end of the story, I guess. It's pretty remarkable. I'm not sure why this hasn't been picked up by an English distributor, but I think it highly deserves an English release. So enough about Taniguchi. Let's continue on with some Tetsuya Tsutsui. I have Manhole Volume 2. And those always go backwards because I don't know why. Tetsuya at his best. Some great horror detective mystery title. Great stuff by Tetsuya. If you like your mystery horrors, it's not much of a horror. It's more of a suspense, I guess. But always happy to check out what he's doing. And of course, here's another Tetsuya title to end the video. And it is another 2-volume series, actually. It's Poison City, Volume 1 and 2, of course. Tetsuya Tsutsui, Planeta Comics. They seem to be releasing everything by Tetsuya. They have an ad in the back for Prophecy Copycat and Manhole. And I did not know Prophecy Copycat is actually drawn by somebody else. So Tetsuya is only writing the story. Started the first volume. This is a pretty crazy series, I have to say. How can I say it? It's a manga within a manga. It starts off with this guy that wakes up in a clinic, and then he ends up finding out that the whole world is gone pretty mad, and there's some kind of virus that turns people into crazy maniacs. But then you cut to where this guy is actually reading it, and it's the editor of this mangaka. He starts telling him, yeah, you know, this looks pretty good. Why don't we go ahead and publish it? And then you figure out once he steps out of the meeting, he ends up walking home, and he sees the world around him is changing in itself. So what Tsutsui was having with this manga is airing out his own grievances about creating manga and censorship. So I don't know if he was frustrated when he was doing this manga, or what his actual point was, but it deals with a lot of things that the manga industry, you know, has to take account with all the censorship going on nowadays. And I read up to chapter 7. You can see from the title, It's going to be about the comic code. There's one chapter about what is too violent for a manga to be considered a decent readable material, or not appropriate when it comes to, I guess, that, the age limit. I don't know. I'm sure he did it because he deals mostly with horror and a lot of graphic stuff. So he probably decided to write about that. I'm very interested to see what the rest of the volume and volume 2 are all about. If it just keeps going about this manga that he's creating to air out all the problems he sees with the manga industry. It's probably never gonna get an English release because the only thing we have from Tetsuya is Prophecy, and I'm sure it didn't sell too well. That was my pretty massive haul for March and April. Air out your grievances or comments down below. Yeah, thank you very much for watching.